Creation is more the result of discipline and focused awareness. It might begin with the realization that there is no particular virtue in doing things the way they have always been done.
Well, Charles's composition is innovative, and he has the ability to dig into the possibilities of the instrument. Charles's music tells a story, and that's what's difficult. After a while, the notes don't matter. They do not matter as much as the storytelling aspect of it. There's a character that emerges, there's a personality that emerges, and after a while you can tell that this piece was probably written by Eakin. The harmonic evolution, the harmonic sequences, the rhythmic, and they're not the same, but somehow in their relationship to each other, his name emerges.
This is potatoes, and this is concoction of sautéed onions and peppers, and we'll mash those up, and then we'll put the sauté in kind of mashed sautéed. It's called potatoes Eakin. Then these are steaks. There's just ribeye steaks. I'll saute these, keep them warm, and then I'll make a little sauce that goes on top. Like the composers, there's a composer, that writes this terrific piece, but that's all he does. He just writes this same piece over and over again in his life. And there's a time when you, as an artist, where you have to write differences. Something you've done before, you don't want to do that. You want to do the other thing. And I think the good guys, figure out some kind of progression. They want to start with A, and they want to lead it to B, which leads to C. It's like Picasso and Monet, Monet would do haystacks. I mean, just once, it's like but those haystacks to Monet were different. One, an 11 o'clock haystack was different than 12. And how is it different? And that just, must have gassed him. What the difference was, slight difference, from this and this. But the progression, but there are these composers just write the same piece, and and they make big hits. I was taking my PhD exams, and in 2 weeks I had to write a Bach fugue, and I had to write a 4-movement sonata for clarinet and piano, and a motet, and 5 things. I can't remember what the other ones are. And I couldn't do it. I flunked out. But the trick was, is to have these half-written things. So when I took it again, I had all kinds of half-written things that I could just go and, doctor them up. And that's, a big lesson I learned, Something you should never do is to drink when you're cooking. But this is an exception because these are, wild-ass people, so. The thing is, in the long run, is not to be able to do everything. That's not it. There was a time in my life when I was, playing jazz, and I was writing music, and I was teaching school, and I was, I had about these 5 things going. At one time, I wasn't, such a big deal as a composer, and so when I was trying to be hired, I'd say, who are you? What are you? and they wanted me to come at you. Well, I'm a, composer, or I'm a bass player, So, and I didn't, that was not my style. So I lost out on a lot of gigs. There.
The violin suite really does reflect Charles the person, Charles the composer. The variety that it has, the spirit, the freedom,
Like a,
and all done in a very sincere way, and an entertaining, accessible way. Really, it reflects Charles. Charles is a wonderful, fun, entertaining guy, and this piece is really a fun piece, and I really think of it as bonbons.
This piece of Charles, I had to devise. This is music, actually. And I had to devise with cardboard a system where I could hook it on to the music stand like this, and then just flip pages down, because there was no time, and you can play and then flip it down that way and keep playing, and I flip top down and just keep that going. And Charles didn't give a damn if you had a problem with it. He just wanted you to play it, and it worked. So I was very happy to do that.
La Vida only has 800 people. 50% of them had never gone to a concert. Like the ranchers, they don't know anything about music. They don't know from cake of soap. My feeling about that is that if you have something good, they're going to recognize that it's good. I have been very selective about the artists that have come here, and they are good.
Those home concerts are wonderful. The feel in the room of all these people who just come out from the town and fill every seat in the living room is such a warm, wonderful feeling. It's a very intimate setting that allows for a lot of communication.
I got a letter from my sister not long ago with this little thing. She was talking to someone about that they didn't paint, and though they wish they could paint and so on, and I said, and my sister said, well, why do you wish you could paint? A lot of hard work and anguish, and he says, well, I miss the journey. It's really quite sweet. I got a faculty fellowship, and I had to have this enormous project. I mean, something that would take a year to do. And opera seems to be the only answer. my first opera was funny, and I wanted to write something really serious, tragic, you know. And so I suppose it didn't turn out to be terribly tragic because there were a lot of very funny lines in the piece.
Isn't that strange? Why bother? Here are some old posters we were playing in. Come on now. Oh, yes.
This between life and death business, which the whole thing takes place, just seemed to cry out for some kind of unusual or inaccessible genre because it couldn't be too tuneful. I want to make it more continuous, and and that the 12-tone system, I think, really did it.
Yes, never without them. Oh, it's all right. They're dead. Oh, I see.
We have the freedom to do it faster or slower, or he doesn't really write the meter. We just play when the cues line up with the actors.
They chant words, which they're not used to, and so they have to get used to different things.
Where no rose shall go unnoticed.
There's a certain foolishness that they have to go through, like wearing silly hats.
When I was doing the sets, and I listened to the music, Charles's music, I realized that there was a line that was repetitive in the chorus that had to do with picnicking with Picasso.
We will go and picnic with Picasso.
And I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful to have a lightness, a sort of a whimsical quality to the chorus? So I decided to make these really whimsical headpieces that are a combination of masks and hats. And they are Picasso-esque.
It's interesting to be in a theatrical setting where we're actually part of the theater.
The next clarinet player is going to have to tap dance too,
Yes, I suppose it is.
People just take death much too seriously too. I think they should lighten up even about their own death. That's what came out of all this. I hope I can lighten up about mine being able through this piece.
I have 20 more minutes. You promised. Too soon. Too soon.
I'm not a pianist, and I'm asked to write a doozy of a piano piece. So here I go. The 12-tone system was for me an escape hatch for my tired old pieces that I was writing. My ear was hearing the same things, and I always wanted to try that to find out what the whole scheme was.
The piece that I will be performing is called Frames, and actually I can only perform a very small part of it, but that's perfectly possible with this kind of a piece because the performer actually chooses which sections of the piece he plays, and those sections are called frames, and there must be at least a dozen of those, and there's only time for me to play 2 of those plus the obligatory finale.
And so my idea was that the performer could sit down with this series of these pieces and the connections and put a piece together, what goes first and does this come afterwards, and he could fashion his own piece and to his own liking. And that idea appealed to me because I know that performers don't get enough of that. I mean, where they're involved in the actual formation of the piece itself.
And connecting the frames that you choose to play are a series of very low chords. These are entitled connections. So each connection is a very solemn, usually quite soft and slow series of chords that serve as an introduction from one frame to the next. And you'll hear I begin with one of those. I play a frame, another connection, another frame, and then eventually you perform the finale.
And here's a connection. Here's what they look like. Now, just evenly spaced notes in this case. They're chords in other cases. And of course, the performer could choose this one or another one. And this one happens to be pianissimo all the way. Here's one that's very sweet, okay? And here's one that's very short notes, staccato. Well, this one goes, good.
It uses the entire range of the piano and incredible kinds of rhythmic variety and tonal variety. It's got it's a real challenge for a performer to have to deal with those things, but I enjoy that, and very well written for the piano.
Here's a connection. So I have to write differences, and that is, and to a composer, it's absolutely paramount. Write differences. You write something, and then you write the opposite of it. Okay, that's very important that a composer be able to do it, because otherwise there's a big danger of writing the same kind of music, same kind of middle of the ground music over and over again, so you have to write sharp, angular stuff, something that jagged and then something smooth, or something very high or something very low, or something very sweet and something very sour, and you have to know what all that stuff is in music.
I love the canon places because you really have to listen so carefully and make sure that both voices are heard more or less equally. I enjoy that part of it. Another aspect is the second frame that I'll be playing is a very virtuosic kind of motoric alternating hands thing, but it jumps around a lot, and so it's an athletic piece. And certainly that can be very enjoyable, even though it can be put a lot of pressure on one. I do enjoy that.
I was thinking about sounds out of the piano, okay, and techniques. And so this one, for example, is takes the idea of just hitting your like a drum, you know, like that. And so this game, so you can hit it one note. So you know, and then I see I'm not a very good pianist, but digga dugga dugga digga dugga dugga.
If you didn't know Charles and you heard this piece, you'd be very eager to meet such a guy. It's got so much in very compact form that expresses so very, very much. You just know this person has lived a wonderful life and a rich life, and that's a credit to him and to his music.
Charles Eakin, yes, I got to know Charles, I think, after I left the University of Colorado, because he was hired later to be a faculty member. But I think he's a wonderful composer. He's written some very nice things. I knew him also as a bass player. He had contrabass player. He had performed in some works of mine that involved that instrument. A very solid musician.
Let's see. I was teaching at the University of Colorado and teaching composition. And
In this one particular semester that I studied with him, I wrote 3 pieces. Now, you know, that's a lot of music to write in one semester. And he gave me a B. Do you remember that? And do you remember
no.
when I called you up and I tried to chew you out for giving me a B? You remember what you said to me?
No.
You said you needed to have a B.
And see, it helped you out for the rest of your life.
It did.
It straightened everything out.
Yeah.
Well, why are we together now is that we were in touch, and I said, you know, I have all these tunes, I'm writing a bunch of tunes. You have some tunes too. Why don't we play some things with tunes? So this is the birth of that, isn't it?
Right.
he experiments with a lot of different styles and flavors. There are a lot of different flavors, and I think his jazz background and all of that comes into play. But ultimately, there's something just very visceral and sincere. I think his personality comes through in his music.
Yeah, that's a strange piece. Strange, it floats right along.
When I play on my fiddle in Dooney, folk dance like the waves of the sea. My cousin is priest in Kilvarnet, my brother in Macrabui. I passed my brother and cousin. They read from their book of prayer. I read from my book of songs. I bought at the Sligo Fair. When we come to the end of time, to Peter sitting in state, he will smile on the three old spirits, but call me first through the gate. For the good are always the merry, saved by an evil chance, and the merry love the fiddle, and the merry love to dance. And when the folks there spy me, they will all come up to me with "Here is the fiddler of Dooney," and dance like the waves of the sea.